Hi, I'm Carole Owens, and this is Stockbridge Updates. You know, I've been thinking, one of the things that troubled me the most about the last year, and when I say that sentence, you may think of many things, but here's the one thing I think about. People started questioning our democracy and our Constitution. They would say things like, wow, if this could happen, maybe we should be writing new laws. Maybe we should be thinking about the Constitution. That really troubled me, because I think we have the most marvelous government that man ever put together. Yep, I do. I mean that. And somebody just gave us a really big gift. And it was my hometown, the city of Minneapolis. And here was the gift to the nation. They proved that this stuff can be beaten. How? By exercising your constitutional rights. Because last night, they announced ICE is leaving Minneapolis and all of Minnesota. It was time for them to get out of Dodge. And what gave them the message was the people of Minneapolis standing up and blowing a whistle, taking a picture, bearing witness to what was going on, which is their right under the First Amendment of, you've got it, the Constitution of the United States. And may those who were injured, the parents who were deported, leaving their children behind through no fault or choice of their own, and those who were murdered. We can't say enough about that unnecessary loss. But the brilliant, shining thing from Minneapolis to the world is the Constitution works just fine. I'm so pleased to have a very special guest. And you know me, you know I like history. But did you know I'm a real fan of architecture? Modern, historic, in the middle, and I'm a fan of this guest of mine, Paul Froncek, a truly accomplished architect, and you're going to learn just how accomplished, Paul. Welcome.
Good morning, Carol.
Good morning.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. Now, you did a lot of work in the Berkshires, and we're going to talk about that, but you didn't start there. You graduated from the University of Minnesota, clever person, and your very, very first project was actually a restoration of the Minnesota Lumber Exchange in Minneapolis.
That's right.
Yep, and I think that was 1978 or 79.
Exactly.
So you have been at this decades.
I was still in finishing the design program at the University of Minnesota for architecture, and I was living in a loft building, which was behind the Lumber Exchange building, which was a wonderful old, it was like the Wall Street of the lumber business in Minneapolis and the northern Minnesota. And the developers took a liking to myself, and we worked with them on restoring the building, which in those days was basically repolishing the marble, and things hadn't been removed, so it was easier done then. But they were one of the first developers in the Minneapolis area to take an old building and to say, we'd rather work with this than build a new building and tear it down.
Isn't that wonderful? I love restoration. I love saving old buildings. Now, there's a great story about you getting the world's biggest candelabra or something.
Oh. The first thing they did was they sent us to Cincinnati to pick up a, I don't know, it was probably a 12-foot by maybe it was wide. It was very wide. Brass chandelier that came out of a synagogue that was being torn down or renovated. And so we hauled that back. We hung it in the lobby. We had an office. Basically, because of the wealth of the industry there, they were all marble interiors, and so it was magic. It felt like one of the great Newport mansions or something, with marble steps and marble balustrades, and so.
It reminds me of the Chicago, because you went from Minnesota to Chicago, but it reminds me of the Chicago Stock Exchange. It was Louis Sullivan, right?
Right.
And that building was fabulous.
No, those were cathedrals to commercial. It was the beginning of all of that was sort of at the same time as the Gilded Age. So
right. It was the father of the Gilded Age. Yeah, moving from an agricultural economy to an industrial and a manufacturing. And you're using exactly the right words. I mean, they were like cathedrals to the new America. So, right now you're out west.
Yes, I'm living in Sedona, Arizona.
Yeah, and you've done work in California and in Sedona, and here we're going to show you a couple of pictures. This is a California house.
This is a Silicon Valley house that I did in 2011 for a wonderful couple, and we tore down the house that was there, but we basically worked with how it sat on the site, and then we built what has been dubbed the Hogwarts house in Portola Valley. One of my daughter's friends moved. It lives in the area, and so when I mentioned the house, she immediately said, "Oh, that's the Hogwarts house," which I don't know if I think that's a compliment or not, but it certainly looks like it's been there since Hogwarts.
Yeah.
So
that's lovely. And this is Connecticut, right?
This was a wonderful client that I had in Chicago that built a very similar house, or we renovated a similar house in Northfield, Illinois. And within a year, her husband was transferred to New York City, and so they moved to Connecticut. And the wife said, "Can you rebuild the same house?" And I said, "Yes, we can, but it's going to be a lot bigger, because if you want to make a splash in New Canaan." So anyway, this was the second round of what is a wonderful Georgian house.
It is. It's a wonderful. This is one of your houses, and I've seen many of them. This is one of my favorites. But what strikes me, and if we could move, yes. Tell me what this is. This is a living room.
I think this was 1997. It was the cover of, as you can see, the home design section for the Chicago Tribune magazine. Mm-hmm. And I did a series of houses on one street, Lakewood Street, which is in West Lincoln Park. And this one was all new construction. I did a house for my wife and children, and that was it came from a pottery factory. And so this house that you're seeing was one of 4 houses on 8 lots in the city. And if you don't know anything,
there's the door to your house.
Yeah, this is the pottery factory which is the reason we bought the whole property, the whole 8 lots. And this was 2 lots that we had, and then we had friends that had houses next door. We had one development house that that another owner purchased. But this is the house. I was here just in the last 12 months, and the house still looks, it doesn't look like a house. It looks like more like something you'd find in, South America or in Europe, because everything's closed off from the front.
Yeah.
And the house had an atrium in the middle of it, which I think we'll see a picture of. But I tried to.
Is this the interior? No.
Let's go back. There we go. Yeah, this is the interior of it.
Just stay with this.
And it was a series of arches that were built out of brick that the building was made of. And so I copied some of that. We created a fireplace in the middle of it.
Was this your house?
This was our house. We lived in this house until we moved to the Berkshires. And closest to me is your dining room, but behind to the right, isn't that the kitchen? Yeah, the kitchen was tucked behind that big arch. And again, I created those arches. They're new arches, but they're in keeping with the primitive nature of the structure.
Yeah.
And then I had a studio beyond an outdoor space that was at the back of the property.
Right. And what strikes me is about this is your versatility. I mean, even in the 3 pictures we've seen now, but you went from Chicago to the Berkshires to this house. So, and this is the house you lived in, and you're not only a versatile architect, you're versatile in your taste, because you I presume you liked both of your homes.
I did. This house, which sits on Prospect Hill, up Prospect Hill from Stockbridge, was totally falling apart. It was painted black. It had purple shutters and trim, and the whole front section was missing. And so with my neighbor's help, Carole Owens, which is when we first met, Carole arrived at my door going, "Who are you and what are you doing to this horrible house?" This was the worst house on the block. Because as you might, if you know Stockbridge, you'll know that the Choates and anyway, they're major houses.
Hill is a good road,
right?
Yeah.
So we took on this project in 1994. Brought our 3 young daughters here to this house, and nearly died of a gas leak in the basement the first night, and then started putting it back together. So what I was getting at, with Carole's help and her book, The Berkshire Cottages, this house was well documented. And so we took it back to the 1867, I believe, iteration of it, which has that front porch on it. It's somewhere between a Victorian and a stick-style cottage. Its sister would be the Tanglewood House.
Exactly. Highwood.
Highwood.
Yes.
And so you'll see, I then, when I realized that there was some precedence for this, I then I used that house as my example for the arches, for the porches. And
it really remains one of the most beautiful houses on.
Oh, thank you.
On Prospect Hill.
Well, it helps that the hemlock hedge was removed, which actually is where I met Carole. I was out trying to figure out what to do with this 100-year-old hemlock hedge that was blocking the view.
And was also dying from the bottom
below because of salt on the road and all of that. So taking on restoration is multifaceted. It's landscape. It's, trying to be true to the history. I mean, even on this house, I think I might have turned one of the chimneys because the chimney had gotten turned the wrong way. Anyway, that's that house. And it's a pleasure to go past it because it lights up at night, and the porches are really what make houses, especially in the country.
Yeah. I mean, porches are extensions of the living space, but in such a gracious way. And I've been friends of whoever lived in that house for 40 or 50 years. So I've been in and out of that house for dinner, for a cup of tea, for a chat, to sit on the porch, to watch the sunset for, half a century.
Nice.
And but you really did a spectacular job. Now, this is also a house you did in the Berkshires.
Well, I moved here and started my practice again. Not sure what I was going to be doing in the Berkshires because there's restoration, but this was a new client. This was a client that wanted a new house. And so I was new to the Berkshires, but I felt like I wanted to create a house that had a Berkshire feel. And really, I think the feel on this house is something called, let's see if I can remember what it is. It's where the roof, it's not a gambrel. Anyway, the instead of being gabled ends, you cut the gable off. And I've seen it now. You see a lot more of this happening. And it's,
and I think, I was never an architect, and I am not now. But the 2 most important things to me about a house is how it's sited on the lot and the roof line. And this is both of the siding and the roof line are fabulous.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it sits on Under Mountain Road. I misspoke. It's not gambrel. Gambrel is this shape that barns are. but it's a cut-off hipped roof is what it is.
That's right, hip.
And this house actually, I believe they've added a screened-in porch to the front of it, so it's changed the appearance. But I was happy. Also, the other thing about this house is there were architects back in the 80s called Site, S-I-T-E, and they were known for sort of upending the architectural vocabulary. And this house is sort of doing that because it's like it's pieces put together. It feels like it was put together like this as opposed to being just a
box.
And it's very apparent. You can see it it's very you see it on the road. And so it's the site had views, but it was just basically, it wasn't that interesting. So I'm pleased with this house, and this house is 25 years old, so it could be on the National Historic Register if you want.
Yeah, but it doesn't look old at all. Oh, this is a David house.
This is a David Rothstein. This is a redo of a David Rothstein house. The portion on the left, David did for an artist or somebody that had anyway, it was very compact. It was very tight. And
let me just stop for 1 minute and say David Rothstein is a marvelous architect and a terrific guy. And if you can have a drink with him or go to a party with him, take him up on it. He's a lot of fun. But David is a cousin of Olga Weiss, who still lives in Lenox. David lives down the road. I don't know whether that's still Egremont or if it's already over the Connecticut line. But so they're still in the Berkshires. And what those two fabulous people did was Music Inn and White Pines. And those are two of the things and they did many, many more. And these are houses that he built as part of the Wheatley property when they got possession of a large swath of the Wheatley property and started Music Inn on one spot. And he built how many houses? 2, 3, 4, not very many.
Not too many. But this is really his style. I mean, he was really known. He was a protege of Louis Kahn.
Yes.
Who was probably maybe the best of the modern brutalist architects, if you will, in this country. But so, and it wasn't just about the materials, but it was about the engineering of it. And this house was like, and David might agree or not agree, but it was almost like it was made like a spring. So it was held together so that it sort of wanted to go like this, but so it had sort of a cupola on it that held it all together. It was a brilliant structure. And so it was very hard
David's brilliant.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, it was very hard to add on to. So we basically maintained the house on the left and then built a house built a bedroom wing in keeping with it, so that the little house that David had done, which was the complete house, became just living room and loft and kitchen, and the bedroom wing had 5 bedrooms in it.
And it has a spectacular bathroom. What was the bathroom story? I remember standing there and you were telling me something about...
This house we did maybe 20 years ago, and it was just when concrete tubs were they started making big concrete tubs, and it looked like half of an egg. Mm-hmm. And it was, so at oblong. And anyway, I took the client down to Kingston to see these concrete tubs because it wanted to sit on its own. And when I got into the tub to show the client how it felt, I realized I was like in a rebirthing egg. It was the most amazing thing. No water in it, but just to sort of see how it felt. And I don't know if they ever used the tub, but it was certainly beautiful. And now you see them everywhere. You see them, in plexiglass and other materials, but.
Yes, you do see them everywhere. Oh, another Berkshire house.
This was an addition for friends of mine in Interlaken, and the house, obviously the 2-story house was there, but we added the porch and a big room.
Behind.
Yeah, on this.
And both 1 story.
Right. And I just think it's one of those things that, this is the way the Berkshires is. You add on, and you add on again, and you add on again. You see it in maybe like houses like Elm Court, where it's hard to tell what came first.
I know.
But most people just see it as a jumble. I remember as a child actually drawing houses like this, and that I kept adding onto.
Yeah.
And so when I discovered the Berkshires somewhere in the 80s, I guess, I thought, oh my goodness, this is where I belong. But
Well, Emily Thorne Vanderbilt was the mother of the add-on because reputedly Elm Court is now 50 or 55,000 square feet. But when Peabody and Stearns, her architects, built the original part, it was less than 20,000. It was
a little cottage.
It was a little shingle-style cottage. And every time one of her children got married and had a child, and the family thereby grew, the house grew as the family grew. And
so houses can really be like exemplary of our lives as they change, or as we add, or new spouses, or joint families.
Yeah, and that's such an insightful comment, because I just wrote a book about Elm Court for the current owners. I'm not sure if that's going to be publicly distributed or if that was private for them. And one of the things I realized in writing it is that literally Elm Court grew as the family grew. I mean, there was something so organic and so part of the progress of the family that you could tell Emily's story
by the house. You can read the house.
Absolutely.
Like a book.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because in the city, she had a perfectly lovely house. And I don't know if it was 55,000 square feet, but it was not small. And you couldn't tell anything about Emily from that house because, number one, her father built it and gave it to her to move into as a young bride. And it didn't particularly, and it was immutable over time. It was unchangeable over time. So you couldn't tell anything about Emily and her life story through that house. But through Elm Court, you could almost walk section by section and then room by room and tell her life. And quite literally, because when she was dying, she asked to be taken to Elm Court from New York City. It's 132 miles. And it was a job to do because she was not healthy. And, but she wanted that because she wanted to die in the conservatory at Elm Court. And she did. And so wrapped her life. And also as the house wrapped. So now I'm just curious. I'm always curious about things architectural. But why are the additions one story instead of two?
Oh, so that because you still have windows on this side of the house. And also, I think there was meant to be a rail and a deck upstairs, up on that, above it.
Yes.
But it was, anyway, that was all it needed.
But it just looks wonderful that way.
No, this I photographed just last month when I was here.
Yeah.
And I thought, it looks so sweet. And the houses look so much better when they're grown in, when the planting grows. And most of my houses, when I go back to Chicago that I go and see, are the trees have grown and the landscape's grown, and they look so much better 25 years later, which is part of what the architect has to do, is imagine what the future is.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Do we have one more Berkshire picture? Or no? Those are all the Berkshire ones. Okay. So let's just. One thing I want to say, scrolling through those, is, oh my God, you're versatile. Now, I have known other architects. I've known lots of them. Even David Rothstein, whom we both agree are brilliant. David has a vernacular, and he repeats himself over and over again. That is what he has to say architecturally, and I love it. And I revere it.
But
how is it that you are so flexible? How is it that you are so versatile?
I think it has more to do with the fact that when I was building in Chicago in the 80s and early 90s, we were confined to generally a 25-foot by 125-foot lot. So then if you bought a double lot, you had a 50-foot lot. And fortunately, most of my clients had more than one lot. But at the same time, you realize that you're dealing with one facade in the front and you're dealing with another back of the house that faces into the yard. The sides almost don't matter. And so I was tired of doing townhouses on 25 by 125-foot lots or 50 by 100. It doesn't matter. 50 feet is nothing as well. So that moving to the Berkshires was part of getting out of that constraint. And then when I started, I had clients from Chicago who had moved to California and wanted new houses. And so then I started building more like in a California style or a colonial, I guess colonial California is what I called it. Because they weren't unlike Georgian houses. They were sort of, mini manses. And
yeah, with an accent on the manse.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's part of it as an architect. It was really nice and to change environments, to change regions. So when I'm building in Arizona, it's a different story. And when I've done a number of log houses with my brother-in-law in Colorado and Montana. And so it's like staying limber as you get older.
Well, bless your heart. And I'm so glad you took the time and shared all this with us, and anybody would be lucky to have you.
Oh, thanks. Nice to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
Okie doke.